Hello everybody and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda, and today we're going to be reviewing Smallworld, an excellent area control game that's perfect for beginners. First, we're going to start by looking at the general feel of the game. Good evening everyone, and welcome back to this exciting episode of Smallworld, the game show that allows you to conquer the heartland of your enemies. Today we have an almost impregnable heartland made up of trolls, giants, and skeletons. Yes, this heartland will truly be difficult, but today's contenders are up for the task. Hello, I'm Mork the Orc, and I like sleeping in late, taking long, murderous walks through the countryside, and signing a treaty before dinner to make sure none of those pesky villagers try to kill me. Kind of like beer. They're good on the water. They're good under the water. Did you say there was a free beer at the end of this thing? Bray. Yes, I am a ghoul. Rule the ghoul, to be exact, and I procure, arrange, and sell brains. And this makes me a wonderful match, as I have much money and many nice things to give you, such as this beautiful eyeball necklace. Twiddly-dee, you pillage with me and never get caught. I am Howard the Hobbit. I have beautiful cheese knife. I have slayed many dragons with my cheese knife, and I will surely slay this heartland with my cheese knife. What do you mean you haven't heard of me? I'm the Flying Rat. Yes, the Flying Rat that you've heard about on the news, possibly associated with something called the coronavirus. Dr. Fauci has been talking about it a lot. President Biden has been talking about it a lot. You have to have heard of me. All right, men, you know the drill. If your portrait has a coin on it, that means you have not been selected to conquer the Heartland. But if you have no coin on your portrait, then you are lucky enough to get your chance to conquer the Heartland. Congratulations, Mr. Flying Rat. You get the chance to conquer the Heartland. Well, of course I won. I'm a shoo-in. I've already made the whole world hide and be scared without doing anything. So, of course, I was a shoo-in to conquer the Heartland. Now, if you excuse me, I have some very important flying to do, some very important conquering to do, and some very important people to destroy. Thank you. So as you can see, this game is just a macabre, zany mix of conquest and cartoonish violence, which is exactly how it feels to play. You're constantly jostling and beating up your friends, and it's just really enjoyable. Now, we're going to look at the main mechanic. The main mechanic of this game is area control. Area control focuses exactly on that, making sure that you carve out a territory and then solidify that territory. And Smallworld is, I would say, one of the purest versions of area control you can get. The only thing you're doing in this game, pretty much at all, is thinking about how and where you're going to carve out territory, how you're going to defend that for the tiny bit of time you play that faction, and then how are you going to carve out new territory with the next faction. This game just perfectly exemplifies area control, and area control is just such a fun mechanic, and it's really easy to wrap your head around the strategy of area control, and that's what makes it great for beginners. So, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the review for this game. First off, let's look at replayability. I give this game a 5 out of 5 in replayability. This game is one of those games you can just play over and over and over again, and the reason is really simple, that you can change out the adjectives and the races in so many different combinations that you never really play the same game twice. And if you're playing with multiple different types of players or groups of players or numbers of players, you are going to get vastly different games because the game comes with several different boards for different player counts, and the game feels very different as a one-on-one as opposed to a one-on-6. It's just an excellent replayable game. Next up, we're going to look at the Masterability. I give this a 4 out of 5 in Masterability, because even though it's a very masterable game, there aren't many luck or chance things that can make somebody who's played the game more lose. But
there is one big area where you can't really master this game, and that's whenever certain races come out with certain bonuses and other races come out with other bonuses. For example, when we were doing the summary of the field, there were some of those races that were overpowered, and I can't explain exactly how, but these factions were just so strong. Those bonuses would make them almost undefeatable. And then there were other factions that were just not very good at all. Their bonuses didn't match with them, and playing them in the game would end up feeling like a losing battle. This is a surmountable difficulty, but even though it's surmountable, it still docks it a couple points. Next up, we look at novelty of mechanics. I give this a 4 out of 5 because it's not really super new in a lot of ways. I mean, Risk is an area control game. You come in, you pummel your friends.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
You leave. But this is a very new game because there aren't many area control games that don't have a lot of die rolling. This game has very little die rolling. There's one die, you roll it once per turn. That's it. So it takes away a lot of the luck element that ruins other games, and therefore it's rather new and fresh feel. On synergy of mechanics, I give this game a 4 out of 5 because the game really well synergizes together. There are a few mechanics that don't work perfectly together, like I already pointed out how the races will sometimes be overpowered or underpowered. That's them not making the things work together super well. But there is one great thing about this game, that it revolves around money. Everything has to do with money, and that the money really brings all the other little mechanics together, so it's very easy and tangible, and you always know how this is impacting how you win the game, because money is all that you actually care about to win this game.
Money, money, money.
In simplicity, I give this game a 4.5 out of 5 because this game is super duper simple. Every single unit is worth one guy. And if there's any exception to that, it's written right on the card. It's written all over the place. You can read it super easy. If you have a troll, one guy. If you have a skeleton, one guy. If you have a magical wizard,
that still only counts as one.
Everything counts as only one. This game that I believe you could probably play with anybody 8 years old and up. Now, looking at energy, we give this game a 5 out of 5 in energy because the energy of this game is just fantastic. You feel like you're just hordes of mystical creatures coming in and dropping stacks, taking over large swathes of territory, then moving those stacks around, and then watching in anticipation as your friend comes in and does the same thing and wrecks you, and then you come in and wreck your friend, and then they come in and wreck you, and back and forth, ebb and flow. Boom. It's almost like a boxing match with armies. It's just a slugfest, and it's so much fun to play. Next up, we look at the mechanical theme. On the mechanical theme, I give it a 5 out of 5. The mechanics of this game really work well, and I actually kind of talked about this under energy, in that you take this big heaping handful of guys, you put them out in stacks, and then you redistribute those stacks to surround your area. The mechanic of dropping stacks of armies really makes you feel like you're ordering a horde of soldiers into battle. The fact that you can put these civilizations into decline and they'll lose all of their power and only be these pathetic little things that get attacked and destroyed really quickly. That mechanic just works so well and makes the game feel like you're almost writing history. It just all feels like you are truly carving out a piece of a real fantasy world. And I just love that mechanical, thematic mesh. Now, the art in this game is absolutely fantastic. I give it a 5 out of 5. Every single region of this board is painted with beautiful designs that makes it feel like a real fantasy world. Down to the smirking, grimacing, crazy characters like this hobbit character here. I mean, look at him. He looks like he's going to murder you, and he's a hobbit.
Sneaky little hobbitses. Wicked, tricksy, fierce.
It's just absolutely perfect. It is beautiful, macabre, and cartoonish all at the same time. It just has so many different moods that it perfectly encapsulates. The person who did the art on this did an absolutely fantastic job. Next up, we look at thought. I give this a 4 out of 5 in thought. This game is a lot of thinking, but it isn't full-blown strategic thinking like heavier games. Since this is a beginner game, you can't really get a 5 out of 5. So a 4 out of 5 on a beginner game is basically as good as you get. Really, the big thing here is strategizing about how can I keep the little tiny territory I carved out, and how can I get more? The other big area where you can strategize is how to stop somebody who's crushing it. If somebody's doing really well in this game, everybody else in the game has to kind of go after them for a little bit. And again, it makes it feel like real life. It makes it feel like a small world where when somebody gets really powerful, like the balance of power in Europe, all the other groups go, oh no, he's getting powerful, they attack. But that also means 2 players, there's nobody to gang up on them. So if they're winning, they might just crush you. But in a 5-player game, this can make this so much fun. Finally, in action, I give this a 5 out of 5 in action. You are just constantly making quick decisions, dropping people everywhere, smashing through enemy defenses, rolling dice, praying to get that 3 instead of that 1 so that you can kill that particular final thing. You're constantly thinking and enjoying and feeling the energy of, I need to clamber onto the top of this small world. It has all the elements that you love about Risk and Axis and Allies without having any of the heavy amounts of luck that make it less fun because you're constantly rolling dice. So in total, I give this game a 4.6 out of 5. This game is absolutely excellent. As you can see, it is better than the 4.5 Flick 'em Up got, so I would personally consider this a better game in general. But it might actually not be quite as good as Flick 'em Up for super beginners, like super young children. This game, like I said, 8 and up is probably about as early as you want to go. But if you want a game that just brings out that area control where you can take over and create a little world with a crazy little history that's all your own, where you can have funny stories about your funny race of whatever zany creations and groups and combinations come up, battling it out, this is the game for you. I really would love to interact with you, and one of the biggest areas I'd like to interact is, what are some of your favorite area control games? Like I already mentioned, Risk and Axis and Allies are area control games. There are so many area control games out there. So I'd love to hear what's your favorite. And, obviously, once you try out this game, I would also love to hear what you think of this game, if you agree or disagree with me on my review of this game. As always, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and make sure that when I call for your help,
Rohan will answer.
Thank you so much, and join us next time for Rest and Reason.